Hello, how you guys doing? James here. I hope you're doing good. Hope you're having a good, pleasant day, a good day, wherever you at, or whenever you see this video. Well, I'm gonna show you some cases where some content creators about some people are going off a certain demographic of men that keep going off on things that they don't. That just and, crime can be anybody. Um, you know, ser- um, serial killers. But there's some people that really have a deranged delusional problem when you at a higher demographic than some of the other racial makeup of the people in this country. I'm gonna show you. Watch this.
No, that's correct. He goes over and takes, unfortunately, the life of these two girls. They are now in heaven. God rest their soul. Something, Charlie Kirk is unfamiliar with. Isn't that right, Charlie? Yeah, I know.
Tells viewers it's all because allegedly Maria had made fun of Charlie Kirk.
So,
bro, I'm telling you, bro, something's wrong with these dudes, man. Charlie Kirk fan Vincent Bataloro snapped, and conservatives stay silent. Video by the amazing Lucas. All right, let's check this out, man.
Black on black crime?
Right. Where's that black? How about that black on black crime, though?
I at first was going to do a separate video about the comments that Don Lemon said regarding white men, and then how Matt Walsh did the meme. But I think this just flows more perfectly into this video. Because if you haven't heard, there was, another common occurrence by this.
Harold has metastatic prostate cancer, but like you, Harold has stuff to do. He takes Nubeck.
Another common occurrence by this certain demographic. You had a white male, Vincent Bataloro, okay? Bataloro, it's hilarious that they call him Bataloro because you had to be batch crazy to do something like this. So Vincent is a representative, is emblematic of a large swath of this country. White, male, incel.
Right. Dangerous combination. Dangerous combination. The white male incel? That man, better watch out. He's dangerous.
Cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs, and violent, and low impulse control.
Yeah.
That's interesting. That's awfully similar to another demographic that they say. Never mind. That's not important. Let's continue on with the story. Well, Vincent was apparently trying to go after this girl, and the girl was like, "No, leave me alone. You're weird." Right? Yeah, I'm sure they hear this all the time. You're weird. You're ugly. You're nasty. You got no muscles. You got no game. Right?
She reportedly had spurned his advances and had filed for a restraining order against him.
Hi, can I place an order for delivery, please? Can I get 2 large pepperoni pizzas? It'll be cash at the door.
He then lets out that demonic laugh.
So what happens is now Vincent is starting to see that this girl
Hell no, bro.
is making fun of Charlie Kirk, and Vincent loses it. He goes cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs, and Vincent goes so crazy. And I don't want to give him an out by saying crazy because I don't mean by like insanity. I'm innocent because I'm crazy. I mean like this is like their normal.
Right, because they aren't going to give that one guy who stabbed that white chick on the train, they're not going to give him a pass. And he literally has diagnosed clinical schizophrenia. They're not going to give him a pass, right, of mental health. So I don't care about what they trying to say over here.
State. This just based off the pattern recognition, this is their normal state is crazy. So Vincent uses his car, and at 70 miles per hour, no, that's correct. He goes over and takes, unfortunately, the life of these two girls. They are now in heaven. God rest their soul. Something, Charlie Kirk is unfamiliar with. Isn't that right, Charlie? Yeah, I know.
Tells viewers it's all because allegedly Maria had made fun of Charlie Kirk.
So,
bro, I'm telling you, bro, something's wrong with these dudes, man. They wanna be like they're in love with this guy. They're in love with this dude, man. Oh my God.
Kirk and the likes of Andrew Tate. He did this violent, heinous activity, this tragedy. And I'm very curious, maybe Piers Morgan will have me back on to talk about the violence of the right. Maybe J.D. Vance and Donald Trump will put out a tweet to talk about, the violence of the right and how we have to cool down the temperature. Maybe Charlie Kirk. Yeah, maybe. I don't know if he can tweet from hell, but, give it a shot. Ask Satan for permission. Maybe Charlie Kirk can tell us about this awesome shirt.
Right,
I will say it's an awesome shirt. How?
Now that is clever. How did per capita help Charlie Kirk, right? Yeah.
Did per capita help Charlie Kirk?
Yeah.
Can someone explain that to me? For all the high IQ white men out there, can one of y'all explain it to me? I find it so fascinating. Now, tying back in to what Don Lemon said, which was, white men, y'all are broken. Y'all need help.
Right.
Men who look like you, men who vote like you, and men who sound white men, something is broken.
Damn.
Something is cracked.
Yeah.
Damn.
Deep inside, when so many of you believe the answer to fear, to loss, to change is violence.
And the
Crazy.
irony of
Such
that.
a violent people, man. Such a violent people. Black people get labeled as violent, but when you think about groups of people who feel comfortable showing up to protests strapped to the gills with fucking...
Family and fellow soldiers, I'm the Professor, and this is the moment of truth. And now the Friday Crime Report. Loringer, Louisiana, Tuesday, June 11th, 2024, 8 o'clock a.m. It seems that whenever we talk about Louisiana, it's always the worst of the worst. Normally it's the thugs in blue, but the depravity down there is hardly limited to the police. Callie Brunette was a single mother of 2 young girls, 6-year-old Jaylee Brunette and her baby sister, 4-year-old Erin. On the morning of June 11, 2024, she had sent the usual text messages to her parents as she normally did. She stayed in near constant contact with them every day. But this morning would be the last time that anyone would ever hear from her. The next day, Callie's father came by her trailer because he hadn't heard from his daughter the previous evening, which was highly unusual for her. When he got to her mobile home, he didn't see her car, a black 2012 Chrysler 200 there, so he initially didn't think anything was wrong, nor did he think to look inside the home at that time. But eventually, being unable to reach his daughter at all, the father forced his way into the mobile home, and when he did, he made a horrifying discovery. Callie's butchered body was lying on the bedroom floor. She had been stabbed more than 50 times. And just as terrible, the 2 young children were nowhere to be found. Authorities performed a search of the surrounding area, but found nothing. By noon, the Tangipahoa Parish Sheriff's Office was appealing to the public for help in finding the girls. An Amber Alert was issued. The Louisiana State Police posted on Facebook that they were looking for an unknown white male who was wanted, quote, for questioning for a domestic violence incident which occurred at the time of the abduction and resulted in a homicide. They also posted that this white male was driving the car that belonged to Callie. Now, because the missing girls were not black, the case immediately was escalated with the U.S. Marshals and the FBI joining the search. The FBI set up a tip line. They received information from the public that led to locations in Macomb, Mississippi, and then Jackson, Mississippi, which is 2 hours from Loringer, Louisiana. By Thursday afternoon, an undercover Jackson police officer noticed a suspicious man checking door handles of the homes there. When the officer approached the man, he fled. Police and marshals found him in a wooded area behind a house, and after a short pursuit, they took him into custody. The man was identified as 37-year-old Daniel Callahan. He was described as an on-again, off-again boyfriend of Callie Burnett, but he was not the father of either of the missing girls. Once in custody, Callahan led police to where Callie Burnett's car was. Close to that property, police found the 6-year-old Jaylee in a dirt pit, alive. But right beside her in the same dirt pit was the dead body of her 4-year-old sister, Erin. The child was determined to have died from asphyxiation. Also, the Jackson police chief said there was evidence of possible human trafficking at the location, including small animal cages. The human trafficking divisions of the Mississippi Bureau of Investigation and Hinds County were called in to assess the scene. Police also arrested a second person who they said was involved with this crime, 34-year-old Victoria Cox. Eventually, Callahan told the authorities what he had done, and it was horrifying. He admitted to murdering Callie Burnett in her home on the night of June 11th. He then admitted to abducting the two girls and taking them to Mississippi in their dead mother's car. The next day, he drove back to Louisiana to pick up Victoria Cox, and the two of them returned to Macomb, Mississippi to the two captive girls. The children were being held in a hotel where they were sexually abused by Callahan and by Victoria Cox. Prosecutors say Callahan then smothered the 4-year-old Erin to death by holding her against his chest so she couldn't breathe. According to court records, she died crying for her mother. Jaylee was given medical treatment and released to the custody of her family members. Callahan admitted that he and Cox decided to keep the 6-year-old as a sex slave. Then they put the child into a dirt pit and threw her baby sister's dead body in right along with her. And had they not been found, that pit would have unquestionably been both of their graves. Even animals don't act like this. And of course you won't be surprised to learn that this is far from Callahan's first run-in with the law.
Learning more about Daniel Callahan's criminal history, Chris Welty continues our coverage.
Lee, according to records filed with the Tangier Parish Clerk of Court's office, Daniel Callahan has faced multiple charges dating back to 2006. In 2006, Callahan was arrested for simple burglary. He pled guilty and was sentenced to probation, but that sentence was eventually revoked. In 2014, he was ordered to serve 5 years and ordered to receive drug rehab treatment. In 2008, Callahan was charged with simple assault of a family member. Later that year, he was charged with theft, and he and another family member were charged with aggravated battery. The pair in that case were accused of attacking someone with a mason jar. In 2009, Callahan was arrested again for theft, simple burglary, and unauthorized entry of an automobile. In 2010, Callahan was arrested for simple burglary yet again, but the Tangier Parish Clerk of Court says that charge was dismissed. Tangier Parish Sheriff Daniel Edwards says Callahan was well known by deputies.
Primarily for burglaries, some aggravated burglaries, some drug charges, some, I think, probation parole violations. I mean, he was certainly known to us. He was a suspect in some burglaries recently. This is obviously before the homicides that he committed, and we've even questioned him about those as well. So he was someone that was on our radar that we had dealt with before.
As people on both sides of the Mississippi-Louisiana state line began to ask questions, Daniel Callahan's sisters said that they had tried to warn the authorities about him, but nobody would listen.
I was lost for words because I really tried to help him.
Dixie Hemphill says Daniel Callahan is her half-brother.
Whenever I had got on Facebook, it was the first thing I'd seen was that Callie had been murdered and kids were missing.
After seeing that post, Hemphill recalled a message she received from her brother.
I had received messages off of Callie's Facebook the day prior, that night prior in the middle of the night, saying that it was an emergency, and he called me like 13 times off her messenger. He was asking for like money, but he wanted me to call, not text.
She decided to call police in Louisiana to report her brother's possible involvement.
I picked up the phone and I called Tangier. And I said, I need to speak to the sheriff, nobody else but the sheriff. And she said, what for, ma'am? And I said, because I think I know what happened to Callie and I think I know where her kids are.
Hemphill says she's not surprised by Callahan's actions because her family tried to warn authorities.
I just think that this all could have been prevented if they would have listened to us 2 years ago. Here in Lincoln County, I want that to be known.
And of course, on cue, Daniel Callahan was immediately trying to trial balloon an insanity defense. He didn't even wait for the white media to do it. He was screaming that he has multiple personalities.
Mr. Callahan, do you have anything to say? Did you kill Erin Burnett?
Unfortunately, on Lexapro, sober, no drugs in my system, I did.
Why? Why did you kill the 3-year-old girl?
I have no reason for what I did. All I know is I want to say I was sober and only on Lexapro and off Lexapro, and I'm also diagnosed borderline with the multiple personality disorder, and I have not got to talk to a lawyer, and I'm on suicide watch, but I'm not suicidal. But
did you kill her mom? Did you kill her mom?
The Lexapro.
Did you kill her mom?
His mom.
Erin's mom. I'm at Rankin County Jail to like interview.
Do you regret what you did? Do you regret what you did?
I would kill me, and I have told them everything that I did, and I have agreed to not fight it. speedy trial and the death chamber, whatever it is.
Did you hope for the death penalty?
For what I did, lethal injection is the easiest thing for me.
Are you pretending to be crazy?
No, I'm not pretending to be crazy. Look me up in Region 8. Borderline multiple personality disorder. You better look it up.
So you have no...
Be crazy. I'm certified. I was only out of nut house for 2 weeks now.
Federal prosecutors promised Callahan that they would not seek the death penalty if he agreed to a plea deal. So in August, Daniel Callahan pleaded guilty to federal charges of kidnapping resulting in death and transporting a minor in interstate commerce. Then on Monday, September 29th in Mississippi's Hind County, he pleaded guilty to 1 count of capital murder, 2 counts of kidnapping, and 2 counts of sexual battery. He was sentenced to life on the capital murder and sexual battery charges and 30 years on each kidnapping charge. Callahan's sentences in Mississippi will run consecutively to the federal sentence he received in Louisiana. Victoria Cox has been indicted in Mississippi on 1 count of capital murder, 1 count of kidnapping, and 1 count of sexual battery. She pleaded not guilty to all charges and is scheduled to go on trial December 8th. Because she committed all of her crimes in Mississippi, there's no federal charges. This case is about pure evil, but it's also about how the system keeps allowing certain people to commit crimes over and over and over again. And it seems that no matter how many times they get caught, no matter how severe the sentence should be, they just keep being given more chances. Unless they kill a mother and her child and kidnap and rape a surviving family member. The truth is, this savage barbarity could have been prevented. Just a month before the murders, Callahan had been accused of arson and theft of a firearm. That was just a few weeks before this tragedy was allowed to happen, but nothing was done. And then on June 10th, the day before the murders, Callahan was accused of criminal damage to property and unauthorized entry.
Ring video shared with WWL Louisiana shows what looks like 36-year-old Daniel Callahan walking around a property located on the Tangipahoe River, east of Amite. Dated June 10th, days before Kelly Brunette was found dead with multiple stab wounds inside a Laranja home, and a manhunt for her 2 daughters started. This video was snapped at 8:45 a.m. The owner says the man is coming out of the mudroom door wearing his waders and holding a torch. In the next video, time-stamped 4:17 p.m., the owner says you see him go in the house. Just under 2 hours later, at 6:02 p.m., the owner says the man is now naked, wearing his apron and a crossbow. The man who looks like Callahan is now walking up the staircase. Less than 10 minutes later, he comes down the stairs, and you can hear him making strange noises while climbing down. Not long later, at 6:18 p.m., the owner's video shows the man wrapping himself in one of the property owner's blankets. This picture appears to be of Daniel Callahan. The owner says the man is walking down his driveway, and you can see him holding a stylized carved weapon of some sort.
When the Tangipahoe Parish Sheriff was asked why Callahan wasn't arrested, he simply said that a report was taken, but they didn't make a connection until after the murders had happened, and that they wished they could have done more. Yeah, I mean, after all, what do you think his job is? Law enforcement or something? He talked about this like it was a car that had a faulty repair done on it. He responded like this was a customer service complaint from Walmart. And that's why tragedies like this just keep happening. This is not the system failing. This is the system working exactly the way it was intended. These cops and prosecutors and judges keep giving these animals plea deals and these slap-on-the-wrist sentences. They know exactly what they're doing. They're maintaining the system of goodies, giveaways, and guarantees that they rely on in this racially stratified society. Because that system is the glue that holds this whole sick enterprise together. But what the rank-and-file members of the dominant society fail to understand is that when people are given racial immunity from the law, that's a direct threat to them too. Because upwards of 85% of white murder victims are murdered by another white person. Charlie Kirk disputed that fact right up until he became a statistic of it. And by continuing to allow the law to be ignored based on race, they embolden the next Daniel Callahan. Criminality escalates. Let someone get away with assault, and they'll move on to arson. Then after that, murder and raping children. Unfortunately, that's a cost that this society decided a long time ago that it was more than willing to pay. Charlie Kirk himself infamously said that a bunch of gun deaths every year was simply an acceptable price that society had to pay in order to have the right to bear arms. Of course, when he said that, he never imagined that he would become one of those deaths. But the perverse reality is that when it comes to white privilege, which is the tangible and psychological benefits that white supremacy gives to those classified as white, they also use the same brutal calculus. When it comes to losing the lives of people from the dominant society, it's part of the cost of doing business. Sure, they don't like the mass shootings and degenerates like Daniel Callahan going on killing and rape sprees, and it would be nice if trash like him was arrested and punished the first time when they commit lower level offenses. But the problem for them, though, is that the members of the dominant society are only too aware that they, too, are desperately dependent on that exact same system of racial immunity from law that the Daniel Callahans rely on. Sure, they may not need it for things like arson or assault, but they need it and use it countless times throughout their lives for everything else. Black people live in a police state, but members of the dominant society live in a so-called free country. When they break the law, unless it's murder, they can count on getting a slap on the wrist. But as I've documented countless times on this channel's Crime Report,
Moorhead, Kentucky. A man has been arrested and charged with the murder of a woman and her teenage daughter. Court TV field reporter Cody Thomas is here with us. He's looked into it, and well, what'd you find out? This is a heartbreaker.
It's quite the brutal, strangest case, one of the strangest cases I've ever seen. Ted, great to see you here tonight. And just a twisted story that still has questions left unanswered. 44-year-old Joshua Cottrell is charged with 2 counts of murder and 1 count of tampering with physical evidence in the double murder of 37-year-old Kayla Blake and her 13-year-old daughter, Kennedy. Cottrell was arrested last Friday at a hospital nearly 5 hours away from Rowan County where the murders took place. Now, according to the arrest warrant, law enforcement officials say they found him with blood on his clothes. Now, you're looking at pictures of Kayla and Kennedy taken from Kayla's Facebook page. The mother and daughter were found dead in their home in Moorhead, Kentucky last week after Kayla's co-worker conducted a welfare check when she didn't show up for work. Now, a complaint warrant reports emergency workers found Blake's body in a back bedroom and she appeared to be, quote, stabbed and bludgeoned to death. And Kennedy was found across the hall, found dead, and she had also been stabbed. Now, this photo here was also taken from Facebook and shows Kayla Blake and Joshua Cottrell posed together. Now, authorities have not said how Cottrell officially knew the victims, but it has been reported that he and Kayla were dating at the time of the murders. Now, some neighbors also weighed in on this violent crime. Take a listen.
I'm very glad to know that he's off the street, knowing that he's caught. I was a little bit worried whenever I heard that he wasn't off the street.
What would put him in the mind to do something like that?
This plot continues to thicken because this is not the first time Joshua Cottrell has killed someone. In 2005, he was sentenced to 17 years in prison for the 2003 killing of 36-year-old Richie Phillips. Now, when he went to trial, he was accused of murdering Phillips in a motel room, stuffing his body in a suitcase, and dumping it in the Rough River Lake in Breckinridge County. That's also in Kentucky. Now, the body was found 8 days after Phillips's family reported him missing. Now, Cottrell told jurors that he killed the man in self-defense, saying he was scared Phillips was going to him. Now, the jury ended up convicting him of the lesser charge of second-degree manslaughter, along with theft and other evidence tampering, and he was sentenced to 20 years but was released after 17 years in March of 2019. And as far as this case goes, Ted, Cottrell is scheduled to be arraigned on Monday, September 29th.
Yeah, well, we'll get more information as this case moves forward, and we'll be watching it. But you see the pictures of that little girl and the mom, you don't, and then you see the mom with that guy, it's a little bit like her.
Yeah, it looks like the Joker or something. Like a walking red flag, if you ask me.
All right, peace and blessings. Peace and blessings, all praises due to the Most High. And I'm going to give you this scripture right here, 2 Timothy 3:6. They are the kind who worm their way into households and captivate vulnerable women who are weighed down with sins and led astray by various passions. And here you see that scripture in play as you see Joshua Cottrell. And this is him right here. You see the face tatted up. He has, a few noticeable white supremacist tattoos. Most notably, the Crusaders cross you see under his left eye to your right. That is one of the white supremacist symbols. Now, I haven't been able to dig deep into all of those, but that is one that is prevalent. And this man is this happened last month in September. Now, this man evidently wormed his way into their household after meeting him. Now, mind you, this guy was also convicted of the lesser charge of manslaughter after admittedly killing a man back in 2003, packing his body up in a suitcase and throwing him in the river. His body only to be found 8 days later. So let me take you back to 2003 and show you some footage of how this young white boy was treated, only really being charged with manslaughter in the second degree, given a sentence of 20 years, but was eligible for parole after 2.5. Just watch this video. This video is used for fair use for literary and commentary purposes only.
Yes, and Mr. Cottrell, while you're sitting around, nothing else to do, I hope you can look at your hands and see Richie's blood.
Judge Cottrell, you're nothing but a menace to society.
Strong words from a family who feels their son's killer is getting off easy. Joshua Cottrell killed Richie Phillips in a motel room, stuffed his body into a suitcase, and dumped it in Rough River Lake.
He had nothing of value. He had one thing of value: his life. And your client took.
Cottrell says he killed Phillips because Phillips was making unwanted sexual advances. A Hardin County jury refused to convict Cottrell of murder and found him guilty of the lesser charge of manslaughter. The sentence recommended by the jury, 35 years in prison. The defense asked for probation.
During this case, I had to look at some very disturbing photographs of the man you killed. Although those images will stay with me, perhaps for the rest of my life, it may surprise you to know that it is another image that invades my thoughts more. And that is the image of you driving a truck that you had stolen from a man you had just killed, with the body of that man crudely stuffed into a suitcase in the bed of that truck. And I see you driving around, perhaps smoking cigarettes or listening to the radio.
By law, the judge could only sentence Cottrell to 20 years in prison. With credit for time served, he'll be eligible for parole in a little more than 2 years. The prosecutor says there will be a lot of people making sure Cottrell spends as much time as possible in prison.
I understand the family has every intention of filing regular victims' impacts with the parole board as that comes up. I have every intention of sending a copy of the judge's statements to the parole board so they can consider his feelings as well.
This machine could change t-shirt printing
forever. Why did I show this video? These videos? Because it shows you that no matter who commits the crime, when it comes to the justice system, it seems to go this way. It seems to punish literally by race. And then when you let the person, I mean, eventually some people get out, but 2 years, he's gonna be 2 years after he did this horrific act to that man and the woman and her daughter. See, America, and why I want to show you this video what this pastor said. Why they worry, this guy who say he was a pastor or a speaker saying that he have to worry about white people need to worry about black people, and why you should be worried about it. Because I'm gonna show you this video, and I always say you can't sit there and put crime on a one race versus another race, because as soon as you criticize someone else's backyard, you tend to don't want to address your own backyard. And I'm going to show you what he said, that we should be aware of he said black people. This is the reason why black people get a lot of when we push back not just out of feelings, but we push back with facts. Because you got some people that's still trying to push a certain narrative on people, and they don't want to address the problem in their own community. And they don't want to face that evil is in the white community at a larger scale than it is in the black community. I mean, there's evil in the black community, but there's much evil in the white community. And look how people respond when they act out. I try not to make my channel about race thing, but it's like, some stuff is so obvious that when someone, when you tag at somebody, you gotta tag them back with facts. And while we sit up here and don't address it as a whole, but address it as selectively, and don't want to call it all the way out, things like this happen. While they're too busy looking ahead and making innuendos and groups. Watch what this man says.
This is the prayer the devil despises. There's a prayer that, once you discover its power.
Shalom, family. Good to see you all here. I hope you're doing well. Well, there's another one, y'all, talking crap about our people. And I'm going to show you what his church looked like. I kid you not. Right? The damn thing got chicken wire around it. I said, anybody that got a toe-up looking church like this should not be talking about anybody. All right? They shouldn't be talking about anyone. But this man, I think he got the room to drag us. And it's so astonishing. Look, over the weekend, there were, you see all the wooden frames? Well, that's chicken wire in there. It's chicken wire running around. Because look, my grandma raised chickens. It's the same damn chicken wire she had when I was a kid. Chicken wire. And the church looked like it's in some kind of garage. If it's not, it is definitely, his church definitely don't have no money, y'all. This church don't have no damn money. But this is his church. There's churches in the damn hood that look better than this man's church. I kid you not. Look at the ceiling. Look at the ceiling. And like I said, around his altar is chicken wire. Chicken wire, y'all. I kid you, because I know what it looks like, because my grandmother used to have the chicken wire. Okay? I know what this looks like. And man, if you are a white pastor and your church look like this, I would love to take you to the hood, to where I used to go to church. Trust me, that church looks like a palace compared to this makeshift church this man came up with. But this is his church. Yeah, you can tell where, I don't know where Georgetown, Texas is, but it sounds like it's out in some rural area out there in Texas. So let's get to what he actually said. I mean, it's unbelievable what the nerve of these people, for real. Okay, this one's not long. It's only 49 seconds, y'all. That's all it is. Let's do this. Okay, here we go. Give me a 1 if you can see my screen. Yeah, well, you folks in Texas, you might have heard of Georgetown, Texas. I don't know anything about Texas, be honest with you. Okay, let's do it.
If there's someone who's black in our church, and they've been in our church, and we know them, and they love the Lord Jesus Christ, great. We're not talking about that personally. We're talking about when you go into a crowd of people. If you go into a crowd of strangers, and they're white strangers, there's some danger. If they're black strangers, there is 30 times more danger. Christian white parent who loves the Lord and loves your children, that you need to have the talk. The talk that we're referencing is the talk that takes your children according to their maturity at the proper time, the appropriate time, and says, there are certain parts of town that you cannot go. And there are certain people that you cannot be around.
I don't know anybody trying to be around the likes of this pastor, Joel Webbin. Okay, and like I said, that makeshift church, and just from what I've seen a couple of pictures of his congregation. I didn't even see no black person, even man or woman, sitting up in there. So I guess these imaginary black church members that he got, because I looked at a couple of pictures, I didn't even see none of our people sitting up in there. You know, in fact, let me just look at the demographics of Georgetown, Texas. Texas demographics. Here we go. Racial demographics. Okay, so according to this, Georgetown, Texas, largest group, white, accounting for 48.7%, and that's non-Hispanic white. Hispanic, 6.97% of the people that live there are Hispanic. Asian population around 5%. There are smaller portions of other races, including black or African American individuals, who constitute about 6% of the population. So it ain't really hardly none of our people there. It's hardly none of our people there.
Chevy makes America's most dependable trucks, like the rugged Colorado.
But yet you have a guy that says something like that, and people like him that say stuff like that. But I just showed you a couple videos that prove otherwise. But them other areas where these people being alive are out in the country, out in the suburb, out in the rural area. In a demographic of men taking out white women or white men and their and children in rural areas. But nobody wants to cover this. But it's easy to go in the inner city, and even some of these Sambo black people, they won't point this out either. Like your Anton Daniels and different individuals. But this is going on. He won't put this on this video. But you clearly see actual news footage. What's going on in these little towns. This is why when they try to criminalize all of us, we come back with that facts and information. The ones who stood up. That's why we do what we do. And when they make it about race, we have to rebuke that. And say that you're safe in one area, and some people go along right with it, and they see that it happens in their own, and they're shocked when it happens in their own backyard. Now you see, evil don't have to have a certain color. Evil is evil. People who do evil. I mean, you can see evil in the city among black people doing black people, which is true. Black on black. But white on white is at a higher percentage. And this is not talked about. It's just not on the local news. And look at how the way the justice system let it go by. But even when the victim is white, in a white, predominantly white area, they don't even want to give them the correct punishment due to the crime, due to the nature of the crime. What that man did to that man, stuffed him in a suitcase. But he gonna credit time served. This is the kind of justice system we're talking about. You play insanity. But if this happened, if it was a other way around, they point out if a black person had that same privilege as getting out doing it, and it lives up to this, and be otherwise. Justice do see color at times, and different depends on what part of the United States you live in, and the town, and the city where you live at. Now the victims have to pay, not what the people, but people of the same demographic and race. Because since America like to throw out race stuff, and since people like to come to online and say it, now you have to show it. And then when it's pushed back on their face, they ain't got nothing to say. Because it's so easy to look into the city of Chicago, Memphis, and yeah, this stuff, it's horrible crime going down there. But that demographic of people are not going to be going to this demographic of Moorhead, Kentucky, or Georgetown, Texas. It's right out there in their own neighborhood. This is the reason why. So the people are likely to not worry about what they see on TV according to a person's complexion on their body. It's what's around you. Who has the mental psychotic problems around you that does these heinous things. Let this be a lesson. Stop trying to put things in the perspective of blaming on one demographic of people when it can go to any demographic of people, when it comes to crime, when it comes to unlivening somebody. Because, crime, which does happen in the city, one case where, unfortunately the man unalived the young woman on the train. That's, even though it was horrible, no one justified that. But they used that one incident, that one deranged black man, and said, then you gotta be careful of the black men, white women and white children. But yet you see, what about the white men that do this? And that was just one case. You've seen a couple cases where this guy went to extreme. He's out there in a trailer park area, a rural area, where we're not hardly where we're at. The evidence is right there. And you see the victim, who is white, is the victim of white. White on white crime, right there. But nobody wants to talk about that, because they want to blame it on another race. They don't want to blame it on the solution, because no matter who is the victim of crime, this extreme is wrong. What is a black serial killer, white serial killer? A serial killer is a serial killer. Stop trying to blame it on race, because every time it's not going to fall in your favor. Because the majority of the serial killers, which there are black serial, there's been a few black serial killers, but who holds high in that rank? It's the white, by stats and everything. It's white. Ted Bundy, Jeffrey Dahmer, and many others. The BTA killer. The stories is out there. They make movies about it. You got people trying to inspire it. Even the ones that did even the young men that did the 1999 Columbine shooting, that continually have other young white males doing this across the country from 1999 all the way now, shooting up and unaliving other students. This is going down to high school kids, and some of them in junior high. Why won't they address this problem? But they look at some black kids shooting at each other at a football game. This has happened once in a while. Or fighting. Call them savages. But what do you call that? And there's been major cases. They hit the headlines. It was so bad. You don't see Trump putting the pictures at the office. You see, even our president has a subconscious racist mind. But yet when crime happens in areas that look like the president, he ain't got too much to say. That's why we call it hypocrisy. And no matter what in which is done, crime is crime, whether it's in a city, suburb, rural, or someone, unfortunately, robbery, theft, sexual assault, whatever. It's crime. Whether the perpetrator is what skin color, whatever. But, let's blame the race in the media's part of that, too. Not that it doesn't happen, but they're part of the problem. And people, because they know it goes into the image of people, so they make you think that the people, if I could keep it on the people that look like this, it won't be suspected of the people that look like them. And then you see what the people look like them have deranged instinct and don't know. You feel safe, subconsciously, and this person is about to do something, or they're about to make other people a victim. Let this be a lesson. Don't ever judge evil by the color of their skin or what it appeared to be. Don't trust nobody. Evil comes in all shapes, sizes, and color. Hope you take this lesson in life. Hope this teaches somebody. Like and subscribe, share. Till next time, be blessed. See you on the next video.